Hey guys, it's Spyro4 here, and today I'm checking out the XM2 8K V2 by Endgame Gear. This has been and still the fastest mouse on the market, along with the OP1 8K, with the latency that goes down all the way to 0.068 milliseconds, or let's say 70 microseconds. So do not expect too much from the unboxing since it's a wired mouse. And here's the mouse. There are 4 color variants: white frost, white, black frost, and black, the one I have right now. Extra PTFE skates, a manual, and that's pretty much it. I have only used this mouse for 2 days, but I was already an owner of the OP1 8K earlier this year, and the performance difference between these V2s and the V1, OP1, or XM2 is not really that noticeable, and I don't think it's worth it upgrading to the V2s if you already own a V1, XM2, or OP1 8K. So first impressions of this mouse, it is definitely so much better than the OP1 8K that I sold earlier this year, because that mouse was too small for my hands, and I am facing a similar issue with the new ATK duck build, and I also think it's too small and it's too narrow, as you can see here. So I waited for the XM2 V2 lineup to buy this, and this shape is also similar to a lot of mice actually. This is my main mouse, scyrox V8, and the hump on the scyrox is a little bit pushed towards the back, while the XM2 is a little bit in between the middle and the back, and I don't like mice that have the hump exactly in the middle aligned with the sensor. The side grooves of this mouse also slope in the middle, as you can see, inwards. When gripping the mouse, it feels more locked in, and it doesn't flare out too much at the top here, so I find the grip very perfect on the sides of the mouse. And one more thing that makes this mouse so perfect is that the top sides here are going outwards, where the bottom is going inwards, as you can see. Lifting up the mouse would be very easy, again making the grip very locked in while holding the mouse. The front of the mouse is also relatively low, as you can see here, which is not bad by any means. And overall, the shape of the mouse, I can see it being used in any shape actually. You can palm grip this if you have 17 centimeters and below hand size. For claw grip, any hand size works for this mouse, and even fingertip if you have huge hands. But the main focus here, in my opinion, claw and palm, hybrid maybe, but mostly claw in my opinion. So this is exactly how I grip this mouse. As you can see, I wouldn't say I instantly enjoyed the grip of this mouse when I unboxed it, since I'm very used to the back hump right here in the scyrox. It took me like a few hours, but then the second I figured out how to grip this mouse perfectly, it feels just like a glove, to be honest. The length of the mouse here is 12.1 centimeters. The side grooves where they get tight from the shell is 56 millimeters and 66 millimeters on the largest area. As for the hump here is 37.9 millimeters. Since it's a wired mouse, it's really hard to measure it, so I'm gonna put the cable on the box and then see. Sometimes it shows 50, sometimes 49, sometimes 51, so I'll assume this is a 50-gram mouse. As you can see here with a different position, it's 49 now. Moving on to the build quality, I don't know about the frost shells, but for the black and white shell, should be very similar and very solid. There's no creaking. Anywhere I put some force on the mouse, there's really no build quality issues at all. And I forgot to mention that I love how there's very little branding on the shell, only Endgame Gear logo at the side here and nothing else. And let's talk about the coating of this mouse. First of all, as you can see, there's a lot of fingerprints on the shell, especially the black one. So I kind of regret getting the black one. Maybe I should have got the frost black or maybe the white one. So you should keep that in mind. And for the coating and the grippiness of the shell, I wouldn't say it's very like grippy and sticks to your hand like the Viper V3 Pro or the scyrox V8, but the coating is top tier. It doesn't slide around, and the shape in general kind of helps with lifting the mouse up. As I mentioned earlier, these sides flaring out from the top of the mouse. So I really enjoyed the coating of Endgame Gear, and I think it's the same coating as the OP1 and the previous version 1 of the XM2. And moving on to the skates, these are claimed to be PTFE skates, and they give you extra large skates if you don't like the already applied ones. These are similar to the budget Chinese mice skates like M-Chos or Scyrox or whatever, so I will have to buy aftermarket skates for the XM2. And guess what I'm gonna do now? I have to apply the ring skates, and I've been waiting until I record the video, because even on the lowest LOD setting on the software, the sensor registration is still really not the best, because they don't put the skate on it. I don't know why they don't, maybe for glass pads. I'm also a fan of the sensor positioning. It's a little bit forwarded than usual, like it should be 2 millimeters or 3 lower than this, but I actually don't mind that. I really find myself aligning my thumb and pinky perfectly with the sensor. So the marketing behind this mouse is the fastest, the best latency, everything for only $80. But the downside of it is having a cable. So is this cable really gonna be annoying? In my experience, I do have a mouse bungee, and I don't think this mouse is gonna be useful if you don't have a mouse bungee. So before buying this mouse, just make sure you order a mouse bungee with it. So as you can see here, I just applied it to my mouse bungee, And honestly, the cable, I could never say that I don't feel it at all, or it's like invisible cable. It's always there and I always can feel it there. But the best part about it is that this cable is soft and it doesn't really interfere too much. I don't feel any friction of this cable against the mouse pad. I just realized I had the cable upside down, but I mainly play on the XXL Artisan Zero soft, and I find myself having enough space for the mouse bungee and cable. And if you play on very low sense, I think you have to higher it up to medium sense at least. I play on medium sense for Valorant, and if you're coming from my wired mouse already, just get this one. It's gonna work perfectly for you since you already know how to handle a mouse cable. And now let's talk about the specs of this mouse and why is it the best mouse if it still has mechanical switches. These are the KLGX, and looking here for the pre and post travel or the side to side wobble, there is none. This is the best click implementation I've ever tried on a gaming mouse. The only nitpick here is the actuation force. It kind of takes a little bit of force, not gonna lie. It is very spammable, don't get me wrong. It feels like Armor and Optical in terms of spamming it, but it does require a little bit of force compared to other lighter switches on the market. But if you get used to it, it's very crisp and very perfect for, especially for FPS games. This click implementation is top tier actually, like I really love it. The side clicks are also the XM2. I believe these are a new version of the side clicks. They are also on the heavy side just a little bit compared to what you would get from the Viper V3 Pro or the top of the line mice out there. But I like the fact that these buttons are big, easily reachable as you can see, and their positioning is perfect on the shell. The position of these buttons are very nice. These ones are also tactile and spammable. I will give you a sound test in a bit after I speak about the encoder. Crispy sound, no pre and post travel whatsoever. But keep in mind, overall, all the clicks on the mouse are a little bit on the heavy side. You're just gonna have to get used to that. Moving on to the scroll wheel, it's a little bit forwarded as you can see here on the shell. And with the V2 lineup, they're using a new KL encoder. This one is dust proof and easily spammable. The steps on it are very defined. I really like the steps on this encoder. The click is spammable, but again, it's on the heavy side. The heaviest encoder I've ever used is the scyrox V8. It's nowhere like that, but it's a little bit in between medium pressure and heavy. Overall, the click implementation is a 10 out of 10. I love everything about the clicks, besides the fact that they need a little bit of actuation force compared to other mice. And now let's finally hear the sound test. And now let's talk about the specs of this mouse. It's using the latest 3950, and they've been getting away with the 3395 for a while with the greatest latency on their previous successful mice. In terms of latency, I feel like they're just trying to catch up with the market pretty much. And the MCU here, they're using the Nuvoton M483, and there's really no reason to compare it to the Nordic MCUs since this mouse already has the best latency out there in the market. So I guess this MCU is doing a great job into keeping this mouse responsiveness on top of the line. And now let's take some time to check the software and test the polling rate on the XM2 8K V2. Alright, checking out the software here. Very simple and minimalistic. Looks like it's coming straight off Windows XP. Starting off with the LOD, they managed to tweak their firmware to have the LOD increments adjusted by 0.1 millimeters. Instead of having only three options, 0.7, 1, and 1.5 millimeters, you can adjust it to 0.8, 0.9. I have angle snapping, ripple control, all that stuff. I don't use it. And I also disabled the LED at the bottom. Maybe it could help with the latency. I don't know. Why not? Just disable it. DPI, I only use one DPI. I deleted all the settings. Advanced settings here, we have motion sync and the polling rate. Since this mouse is not rechargeable and it doesn't drain any battery, so it's always plugged, always free to use, so why not having on 8K at all times? But the downside here is that you have to open the software and switch polling rates whenever you switch games, because there are some games that don't really support 8K. So motion sync, I find motion sync implementation on this mouse very nice and very perfect. I don't usually use it, but I'm experiencing with it now and I've been using it for 2 days with no issues, so I think I will keep motion sync on this mouse. If you enable glass mode, the polling rate goes down to 1000. I don't know why. Slam click filter, that's if you have double clicking issues, and double clicking issues usually come from speed mode. If you have GX speed mode here turned on, you might face some double clicking issues when you like slam your mouse against your mouse pad, something like this. But for me personally, I did not encounter those issues. Even on my OP1 8K version 1, I didn't have any issues with double clicking it. So for me, I keep it off because I want the latest latency out there. This is the debounce time. In their Discord server, they don't suggest changing the debounce time, so I keep mine on default. And you have sensor angle tuning, which I also keep on default. Finally, button mapping here. You can use this mouse as left-handed, press that, and then it switches to a left-handed mode. You can also set macros per buttons, as you can see here. But one more thing you have to keep in mind, you have to join their Discord server if you want to update your latest firmware, and also if you want to download the software. And as for their polling rate tester app, let's make sure we're on 8K. There's of course not going to be any wireless interference. You don't have to hold your mouse closer to the receiver or anything. As you can see, like I can keep it on the 999 if I want to, if I really go fast with my circles and movement. And look, it even outperforms 8001 right there. And if I go slower, it's still going to be consistent at 7,900. I can't really glaze it anymore in terms of the firmware solution and the responsiveness. So conclusion, is this mouse worth it, and who is it for? This mouse is for people who play Kovacs, Valorant, CSGO, people who really care about latency so much and consistent performance, consistent sensor registration and pull-in rates, and people that don't care about aesthetics, and people that want to have a locked-in shape for claw most of the time, and of course people that don't mind a cable. It's not going to be that annoying, but it's always going to be there, even though it's very soft and stuff. The pros of this mouse are honestly more than the flaws and cons, and for $80 it's definitely worth it. It's 1000% worth it. If you're coming from a very light click implementation, for example my main mouse Scyrox V8, you might find this one a little bit heavier to actuate, even the scroll wheel, the side clicks, and I actually do hope they loosen up over time, and I do think I'm going to be using this one mainly on my Valorant ranked games. Of course this video wasn't sponsored, I bought this one with my own money, so I would really appreciate it if you support me with a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you're trolling.